So you're very welcome back to the channel, and we have another USA React for you guys, so thank you all for coming into the comment section and letting us know about this one. But before we get into that, if this is your first time on Unstable TV, do not forget to
like, subscribe, comment, share, hit the bell, and if you're back with us again, thank you.
So what are we reacting on today, Danielle?
So today, James, we've been sent over this a couple of times, and this is 9/11 Operation Yellow Ribbon, and this is from Gander in Newfoundland in Canada.
Without further ado, let's get into this for ourselves and you guys. Let's go.
Mentioned earlier that Tom Brokaw had an extremely compelling piece, so without further ado, Tom Brokaw.
Now, this devastating earthquake in Chile is a reminder that when one country gets in trouble, it really does depend on the family of nations for help. That's been especially true between this country, Canada, and the U.S., of course. The ties between the United States and Canada are long and enduring, and not just in good times, it turns out. On September 11th, 2001, the people of Canada came to our aid, managing an unprecedented crisis in the skies.
Yep.
They also took care of tens of thousands of displaced passengers who arrived at their doorstep on short notice.
That's wild.
This is the story of one small town that didn't get the attention it deserved in the chaotic aftermath of 9/11 in so many ways. It symbolizes the grace and the unselfish spirit of this very generous nation. September 11th, 2009. This is a scene that has played out in communities for 8 years since the terrorist attacks of 2001. But what makes this ceremony different is where it's taking place. This is the Appleton Peace Park near the town of Gander in Newfoundland, Canada, where during the tragedy of 9/11, there was a bright light on the better part of our humanity.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing that has happened here, and we know that no matter what happens in the world, there are still good people.
That's true.
Yeah.
If this place can be somehow shared with the world would be a much better place.
Here in Gander, amid the heartache, an autumn romance blossomed. Here, parents were constantly consoled as they faced wrenching pain. Here, thousands of stranded Americans would form a lasting bond with everyday Canadians who acted with admirable, unwavering kindness.
You love to see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We can never again look at the New York skyline without remembering that day, September 11th, when terrorists hijacked airliners loaded with passengers and jet fuel, flew them into the World Trade Center and killed 3,000 people,
Awful.
altering the lives of an untold number of others. Most of our attention that day, of course, was focused here in New York, but it was a story that reverberated around the world. And it had a special impact
everywhere in the world.
on a small Canadian town 1,000 miles north of here. A town that became a safe port in a storm of fear, terrorism, and uncertainty. The province of Newfoundland and Labrador, a former British colony that did not join Canada until 1949, has long
that's a
been
long
considered
time.
Canada's poorest. It is largely populated by descendants of Scots and Irish, living simply in often harsh conditions.
Irish, that's us.
Here, neighbors relying on neighbors is a necessity of everyday life.
Good.
Well, that's what you love to hear.
Population 10,000, is a small, two-stoplight town in the northeast corner of the island of Newfoundland. Claude Elliott has been mayor of Gander since 1996.
We only have 500,000 people on a massive island. We've come through some difficult times, and most Newfoundlanders survive with hard work, helping helping each other, and that's been passed on from generation to generation.
Can you hear that in that?
Sorry, I am going to pause it for a minute. That accent is crazy.
So can you hear like the Dublin accent mixed into that?
It's like a Dublin accent and like a Cork accent and a Kerry accent rolled into one. That's wild. Considering it's in Canada, it's crazy.
No wonder the Canadians were thinking we were from Newfoundland when we first got there. Yeah. You can hear the Irish well mixed in there. You can hear the Scottish as well.
I know we haven't really gotten into the story yet, but you know, for such a small town that's helping so many people, that's crazy. Like 10,000 people is a small place. And he's been mayor since the 60s. That's insane.
That's why I said 1996.
Oh, sorry. Well, it's still a long time. Still a long time to be mayor.
To present day now,
Yeah.
That's a beautiful story, though. All the Canadians come together with the Americans and giving them safe haven and looking out for them. Like it is a beautiful story, especially with the events that did take place in New York on that day. And rest in peace to all them during that event, and sending a lot of love to all the families and all that. But it is an awful time in history, and unfortunately, as much as New York is beautifully built up, it is always associated with that.
I know.
And there is always a memory you do look at when you look at New York. But it should always be remembered as a day that everyone came together and looked after each other. The people came together and looked out for each other.
Absolutely. And it's amazing to see that it wasn't just Americans that, reached a hand out and helped Americans too. It was different people from all over the world, and especially a whole town.
Yeah.
Just incredible to see. Can't wait to hear the rest of the story.
The cold season can come quickly and severely in Newfoundland, but September 11th, 2001 dawns warm and sunny, a typically bucolic day that will be anything but typical, as Gander is about to be thrust into the catastrophic events unfolding 1,000 miles to the southwest. Its citizens to be challenged as never before.
I'll do it for you.
2001 started as a normal day in Gander. While we were having coffee, someone said there was a plane that crashed in New York in one of the Twin Towers.
We had complaints of speeding on Airport Boulevard. It's the only 4-lane road that we have, and I was parked in front of the curling club. I had my car radio and I heard what was going on. And like a lot of people, I couldn't believe that this was happening. And I said, that can't be true. It just can't be.
It is such a pretty morning, isn't it?
Perfect fall morning.
On that September morning, air traffic control veteran Ben Sliney is on his first day in his new position as FAA National Operations Manager. Barely an hour there is an ominous development.
We were trying to locate American 11. It had shut off its transponder and dropped below radar coverage.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the book is called Hughes. We want to go live right now and show you a picture of the World Trade Center.
A plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City.
We saw what appeared to be a fireball at the top of the World Trade Center.
We had reports of another aircraft that had deviated from its course.
Oh, another one just hit. Something else just hit.
U.S. officials say it appears it was a third plane that hit the Pentagon.
The way that plane just went in there.
Ground stop, meaning that no other aircraft could take off. And whatever's necessary, just get them stopped now. I don't want any more planes on their frequency taking off.
56 minutes after the North Tower struck, an unprecedented decision has been made. Every non-military plane must land immediately. For the first time ever, American airspace is closed.
Oh my God.
This is war. This is a declaration and an execution of an attack on the United States.
The only way to really sort the situation out was to land everyone in our airspace.
The FAA now says that all international flights headed for the United States are being diverted to Canada. Every day, as transatlantic flights enter and leave North American airspace, they are managed here, the Area Control Center in Gander, Newfoundland.
Gander 1174 Center, good day. Clear to send to maintain 6,000 feet.
On September 11th, when U.S. airspace is shut down, there are almost 400 planes carrying tens of thousands of passengers westbound over the Atlantic. Around 200 are close enough to return to Europe, 167 more are too far across the ocean to turn back.
When did you begin to be aware of what was about to happen again? The flights that had been crossing the Atlantic more than halfway, many of them were going to be headed for Gander and St. John's and Halifax, but Gander would be the big magnet.
I knew that the Canadians were going to get an onslaught of traffic, and I suppose I hoped that they'd be able to handle that traffic.
60 north, 20 west.
That's a lot of planes.
Handling the traffic falls to a small team led by Don O'Brien, the supervisor on duty at the control center for NAV Canada, the Canadian version of the FAA.
The arrival sector, we normally would have 3 controllers seated. We quickly went to 14. We train for emergencies, we train for bomb threats, but usually it's a single airplane or maybe a second one maybe, but not to this level. The activity was going on here.
Was another part of your mind thinking about what had happened in New York and the possibility that there were more terrorists out there?
I'm sure it went through the controllers' heads, it went through my head, but sure, some of those airplanes could have been missiles. We didn't know how extensive this was, but that was.
Yeah, you just had to stay in the moment and get it done.
Get those airplanes on the ground safely.
Yeah, that's what you would be like, though.
One of the pilots
just get everyone to safety.
Newfoundland is Beverly Bass, the first female captain at a major airline. She's flying American Flight 49 from Paris to Dallas with 170 people on board.
From the controller's standpoint, they feared that another airplane was going to be taken down.
You
Some
would.
of the airplanes were given directions to turn around and go back to their departure city. So we're sitting there cruising westbound and looking out the window, and you can actually see them turn and make 180s and head back to Europe.
Newfoundland is an island located off the eastern edge of North America. The 167 planes approaching Canada all must land immediately. The vast majority at small airports around the island and in the nearby maritime provinces, all controlled in Gander. Over the next 7 hours, Gander Control and the surrounding airports will handle unprecedented traffic under extreme emergency conditions.
So much has happened already, and it hasn't even really gotten into what happened yet. The United 93, his first day, and that happens. The first female captain, and that happens. Like, what would you do?
I don't know. You'd literally just what he said, what the tower control said there in Gander in Newfoundland. Stay focused on getting everyone to safety. Get everyone as quick as you can on the ground and to safety and away from any threats or further attacks. You just have to focus on the job in the day. Yeah. Like, as scary as it is and what's terrifying, like when he's asking there to be asking people, you know, would you be worried about this? You would, but you're more worried about, okay, we have to get these lives to safety.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what everybody would have been like. The pilots, passengers, the people that are running the air traffic from the ground. Like, I didn't know Gander was like the main air traffic control there as well. So that's it makes sense as to why they went there now. But just already, it's a crazy story already. It really is.
But not only that, you had everyone coming down from the air in all the small airports in Newfoundland. Yeah. Like, you had Gander, you had St. John being filled up and everything. It was a crazy day for the world. Like, all the world could do was stand still and watch and hope people got to safety. Like, it would have been frightening. And to be on them flights at that time as well. Imagine you're just going about, you're on holiday, you're probably going back to see loved ones, and the captain just turns around and tells you that what's going on in New York. And I was like, yeah, we actually have to turn around in case we're up next.
Yeah. Did the captains tell them what was going on, or did they just say they had to divert and tell them when they were on the ground to stop, like, panic?
Yeah, actually. Yeah. I just assumed they would have been told, but a smart move would be to kind of just say, we have to make an emergency landing, because imagine everyone hearing that in the air. You'd freak out.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Gander Air India 113, we go to Toronto. The Air India 113 Center, negative. You must now land at Gander. Turn right heading 320. Roger, turning right heading 320.
Flight paths must be recalculated in 3 dimensions, accounting for speed, direction, altitude. Some planes are too heavy to land and must jettison fuel. The risk of collision is ever present. This is an actual radar tape from that morning.
Oh my God, so many.
Now you're starting to turn them toward Gander.
Yes, we got the word, of course, and we had to peel them all northward into Gander, St. John's, and Stephenville. Some of them knew there was activity going on in Kennedy, and there was a crisis in American airspace. Some of them didn't. We were telling them, look, you got to land. And they're saying, no, we're going on to Kennedy or Dallas or wherever. They say, no, you're not.
In the air, as they learn the shocking details, captains worry their own planes could be carrying hijackers, forcing many to hide the truth from their passengers.
Our captain came on the PA system and announced that we had a slight mechanical problem, something to do with an indicator signal or something like that. We were going to have to put down in Gander to have it repaired.
Shirley Brooks Jones is a retired fundraising administrator for Ohio State, returning home from Frankfurt, Germany, on board Delta Flight 15.
Once we got parked, the captain came back on the intercom, apologized to us for the ruse, and said actually the equipment was fine, but there was a national emergency in the United States.
3 aircraft we know of were commandeered. One has crashed into each of the World Trade Center towers in New York City, and another was...
Oh, they actually did tell me.
Yeah. And they landed though.
Apparently some type of what would appear to be maybe a terrorist activity or hijacking has occurred with airplanes which apparently have impacted the World Trade Center in New York City.
On September 11th, 8 domestic flights are scheduled to land in Gander. Instead, 38 planes carrying almost 7,000 people are beginning to fill the tarmac. The spectacle has drawn a crowd from among the town's 10,000 citizens. Oz Fudge is one of just 2 officers on the local police force.
I watched the plane come in, then I seen a jumbo come in, and then I seen another one come in, and I'm looking at this and I'm saying, holy God! If there's 200 people on each one of these planes, and we're going to get 40 or 50 planes, that's an awful lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially for a small town.
Hours after American Flight 11 strikes the North Tower of the World Trade Center, the skies over the United States are empty. For the first time, American airspace is completely closed.
Wow.
In Canada, the Gander Area Control Center somehow lands all 167 planes without incident.
It was a sigh of relief. You wipe your brow, you thank God they all got in safely, and it was unbelievable to go from this horrific activity, and then the airspace is completely sterilized. Nobody there. No targets on the radar screen.
That must have been so strange.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Here in New York, the sad task of the search for the survivors and the victims goes on and on. In New York, citizen volunteers are flooding toward Ground Zero as emergency workers search for survivors. 1,000 miles from the destruction, the 10,000 residents of the peaceful Canadian town of Gander, with virtually no time to prepare, must also respond with countless acts of generosity, providing food and shelter for thousands of frightened passengers, strangers who have suddenly arrived at their door. Among the stranded, far from home, are the parents of a New York City fireman. Not knowing if their son is at Ground Zero, Hannah and Dennis O'Rourke fear they may never see him again.
Thousands of transatlantic flights underline the strategic importance of Newfoundland's airports.
Gander was an airport before it was a town. In the late 1930s, British and American military officials chose this site on the eastern edge of the continent to build the largest airport in the world. During World War II, this was a takeoff place for American military aircraft headed for the European theater.
No.
After the war, Gander continued to play a vital role as a refueling stop for transatlantic commercial airliners. But then, the jumbo jets came along. They could cross the Atlantic non-stop, and Gander's role in aviation was greatly reduced until September 11th, when Gander came alive again. A safe harbor for the jumbo jets that had almost put it out of business. And within a matter of hours, this vast tarmac was filled with planes from around the world, parked wingtip to wingtip.
Canada is basically becoming a gigantic runway for every plane and aircraft that was destined for the United States today.
In Gander, no one is allowed off the planes until customs and security are in place.
Yeah.
Run by airport officials and officers from the regional headquarters of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Mounties. They must process each passenger, plane by plane, until authorities are certain there are no terrorists on board.
That's understandable.
Among the trapped passengers is New York State Police Officer George Vitale, who is returning from Ireland, where he was doing advanced security for New York Governor George Pataki.
We were on this plane for 19 hours, sat on the tarmac, not really knowing what was going on outside, but knowing that it was pretty horrific.
The number of casualties will be more than any of us can bear, ultimately. And I don't think we want to speculate on the number of casualties. The effort now has to be to save as many people as possible.
There is another New York couple on the Gander tarmac whose connection to the events back home couldn't be more personal.
I just wanted to get off the plane and see what was happening, because I was hoping my son wasn't working that day.
Dennis and Hannah O'Rourke have been visiting relatives in Ireland. When they learn what has happened, they fear for their 44-year-old son, Kevin O'Rourke, a firefighter from Rescue 2 in Brooklyn.
I guess it goes back many years to when I was a kid. The apartment building I lived in, over the years I was there, it ended up having 3 different fires, so I was carried out as a child by a firefighter. So I have fond memory,
He's been so fond
go back to, all of a sudden, in the smoke, this big guy comes up, grabs me, and carries me down the stairs.
When he was going for his fire test, and he said, "Mom, you pray for me." And I said, "Yeah, Kevin, yeah." He said, "Pray for me to pass." I said, "Yeah, Kevin." So he missed it by, 1 or 2 points, and he came home that night and he looked at me. He says, "You didn't pray for me." I didn't pass. I says, "No, Kevin, I prayed for you, you failed." So he says, "Mom, that's all I want. That's my calling, is to be a fireman."
There's true passion there.
While the desperate rescue operation continues in New York, Gander begins the process of absorbing all those passengers. So many that in a matter of hours they will nearly double the local population.
Now, Gander is a town of barely 10,000 people. There was over 6,000 of us. Now, if you extrapolate the numbers, New York City is 8 million people, so what's that? 6 million people showing up on your door saying, "Okay, we're here, do something."
The painstaking process of registering and removing each passenger continues through the night.
Finally, we're free, we're free. We're on the ground after more than 24 hours. We have no idea where we're going, but we're going.
It is not until noon on Wednesday, September 12th, when the last passengers are finally allowed into the Gander terminal. They are exhausted and confused, most not knowing where in the world they have landed.
You were.
Gander, which is just a few minutes away. We're not sure when the FAA is going to open up the United States to travel again. The Department of Transportation in Canada has all air traffic in Canada shut down right now. When you see the footage of what has happened, you'll appreciate why things have been done the way they are.
The only vehicles available to transport the great volume of passengers from the airport are school buses, and the local bus drivers happen to be on strike.
We were told at the time we got a crisis on our hands, and the strike never came into effect whatsoever. All the bus drivers came back, everyone.
Yeah, you will.
All came back, and we did our job.
They laid under picket signs, they went and took their buses and they drove it, and for the
Place
next 4 or
for
5
them.
days just helped out wherever they could. And that's what we're made of. That's the type of people we are. Even though those bus drivers had a dispute with their employer, they had no dispute with the people that landed.
That's right.
We'll do the best we can to look after this. If there's anything you need, anything at all,
I mean anything, just ask, and you will be taken care of, bottom line, okay? Make it as comfortable as possible.
As passengers arrive in town, the locals rush to meet them with home-cooked meals.
That's nice.
Among them is lifelong Gander resident Beulah Cooper, an organizer at the Canadian Legion Hall.
7 o'clock that night, I got a phone call from the Legion and asked me to do a tray of sandwiches. They have them down there by 8 o'clock. I didn't know what was going on. Brought down a tray of sandwiches and I found out about the planes. Your heart went out to each and every one of them. Because first thing you do is put yourself in their shoes and know how you would feel.
Currently there are thousands of people in Gander and surrounding area that need your help. Please come to their assistance, lend a hand, lend a meal, offer your services wherever possible.
Passengers are not allowed to remove their check bags from the plane, so the clothes on their backs and in their carry-ons may be all they'll have for days. Ganderites respond, donating clothing and opening their shops free of charge.
That's beautiful.
Show your boxes to the camera.
Hundreds of passengers are also without their prescriptions until owners of the 2 local pharmacies working day and night and across language barriers can fill them all, again, at no cost.
They were able to go into the stores and just take items off the shelves. I'm not even sure they had to pay for them. The people were so accommodating in Gander.
You've seen a lot of Gander coming together. They really showed out for everyone. Beautiful people overall, opening their hearts and their homes and their shops to everyone. Everyone that was stranded from the 9/11 attacks were well looked after here, and it's just beautiful to see a community like this come together. What did you think, Danielle?
No, 100%. It's amazing to see that, you know, even drivers that were on strike were like, that doesn't even matter anymore. We're helping these people and that's it. And the free food, the free clothing, even prescriptions, it's just the help that they all gave and all the love that they showed them all. It's just incredible, especially when it happened in such a short space of time. And even the people coming off the plane, they didn't even know what happened. Like, some people were on the plane for until the next day, like 24 hours.
Yeah.
Without knowing a thing. That's, you know, and to be welcomed so well and so warm like that, I can only imagine how they feel.
Wonder, did they find the fireman in the end with his lovely Irish name O'Rourke? His mother didn't pray for him. That's not very Irish mother now. But we're still waiting to hear more about his story, so hopefully we'll get more on that. The scenes and the sights and the pictures and the videos of 9/11, the Ground Zero zone as well. It's scary. Like, I could only imagine waking up on that day of how terrifying and horrific that is, and seeing so many brave people, because as usual it's the people that come together, and without the people the countries are nothing, because they came together and they really showed their strength and their humanity to everyone. And like Danielle was saying, the school bus drivers, they had a strike going on, but they didn't let the people down.
Yeah.
I hope they got their raise or whatever they were picking for after that.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's all you can ask for in times of trouble like that, is just people coming and helping. Yeah. That's it, and it's so lovely to see.
Even with all the kitchens firing around town, the local citizens cannot possibly feed 7,000 people. The Red Cross and Salvation Army send additional food and supplies, fueled by donations from throughout Newfoundland.
Oh, that's what I was to say.
I can't thank everybody enough. It's been brilliant. Everyone seems to have pulled together, you know. It's amazing where all the stuff has come from.
The community centre is also acts as a ice rink, and we've stored all the food on the ice surface, and we became known as the largest walk-in refrigerator in the country.
That's cool.
Another problem. Gander has only 500 hotel beds for almost 7,000 unexpected guests. Local schools, churches, and Legion halls must be converted into makeshift dormitories filled with sleeping bags, blankets, and cots. It is only as the passengers are settled around Gander that they see for the first time images of the devastation back home.
There's the plane, you can't miss that.
some 30 hours after all of this had happened, we finally saw the pictures on television, and we just stood there, you know, not saying a word and just watching those pictures over and over and over.
I think a lot were in shock. You could see that look in their faces of total loss.
How could you not be in
We don't know
shock?
what's happening. They're in a place called Gander. Their country has been attacked. They're talking thousands of people that may have perished. What's happening? What is happening here?
I apologize to the families of people that are lost right now. We have lots of families seeking information about who was in the World Trade Center. Did they get out? Didn't they get out? Are we able to recover them? Aren't we able to recover them? And we don't know the answers to all of those questions yet.
Hannah and Dennis O'Rourke are staying at the Canadian Legion Hall in Gander. By now, they've learned that their son Kevin had been one of the early responders at the World Trade Center and that he is among the missing.
I seen on the TV what happened to the Twin Towers. And I didn't want to alarm her, but I knew that when they collapsed, I figured nobody would get out of that thing. But we prayed. I came here and prayed, hoped that he would survive.
It is reality, you know, as far as in the city of New York, that you are going to lose some of your fellow brothers, you know, battling the Red Devil. Just luck of the draw, I guess.
Oh, so he was lost, was he?
Yeah. He says, some are called for nurses, doctors, priests. My calling is to help people. And that's my calling, to be a fireman, helping other people and saving people's lives.
A real hero.
This is an effort involving people that came in on half a day's notice. Some very anxious people, some very worried people, but yet some very thankful people for the hospitality that only the people of Gander and surrounding area can show.
These strangers are just taking us into their home. And it was not just taking us into their home. It was, here's the bathroom, here's fresh towels, here's the refrigerator, there's plenty of food. And then what they said is, now you know where the house is. The door is open.
I gotta tell you, this experience with your town has just been beyond belief. We were buying some clothes earlier for the extra day stay, and the shopping clerk actually invited us to her house to take a shower. So it's been like that ever since we've been here.
And the people are real nice, you know. I can't believe it, you know. Everybody put their arms around you, you know, and there's always food coming in all the time.
There's not one person that we have come across who hasn't offered to help us in some way. It's overwhelming.
They didn't think of themselves at all at any time. They'd be in that kitchen and working all day and work the night. It didn't faze them, so they were there for you.
Other than her daily walk to church, Hannah O'Rourke refuses to leave the Legion Hall. Beulah Cooper, the Legion Hall organizer, can't help but notice her pain.
My son is a fireman, but I know this is not New York. And your heart really went out to them. And I tried to get them to come up here and stay, but they wouldn't leave the Legion because they were afraid they'd miss a phone call.
Wow. That's understandable.
Fantastic to us, and so was everybody else, but Beulah was special. She was like a mother. That motherly love, she'd hold you, you know, and she was great.
I talked to her, tried to take her mind off things, but I know I didn't do that because you can't take a mother's mind off her child.
Beulah Cooper tends to the O'Rourke's day and night. She walks Hannah to church to pray for Kevin and for his fellow firefighters.
The community, the love that they have, you could feel it every place around, you know. And they keep telling you, keep your faith, he'll be fine, you'll find him, he'll find his way out. I says, if anybody can, Kevin will, you know. So, it was in God's hands.
The quiet peace around Gander was shattered on September 11th when almost 7,000 airline passengers were forced to land here. They came to be known as the Plain People, and they almost doubled the local population. Many of them didn't know the fate of their loved ones. They were confused and anxious. But that anxiety was quickly replaced by gratitude. Gratitude for the exceptional acts of kindness and comfort offered by ordinary people.
When we were stranded here, we were very vulnerable, but everyone made us feel so loved and at home and comforted. Everybody just put everything on hold to take care of us.
Diane Kershke of Houston is traveling home alone after visiting her son's family in Huntington, England. In Gander, she has met another passenger from Continental Flight 5. His name is Nick Morrison, a button-up oil industry engineer from Worcester, England, on his way to Texas for business. Originally scheduled to fly on September 10th, his company had postponed his trip by one fateful day at the last minute.
That's where I first saw Diane, which was over here. She was sat on an army cart all on her own. There were a bunch of other women over there. There was something in the order of 90 people here. Life, you're on a treadmill, you get up, you go to work, you come home, you get up, you go to work, you come home. And you perhaps don't have time to stop and examine where you are. And all of a sudden, you're plucked out of this everyday life for 4 days. And yes, you do get a chance to examine where you are and where you want to go.
U.S. airspace reopens on Thursday, September 13th. Over the next 3 days, the Gander Airport once again becomes a swarm of activity. Around town, the schools and Legion halls begin to empty.
Our community had a sense of sadness because they didn't know if they were ever going to see, and probably never will see, a lot of those people again. But there was also a lot of friendships developed from it. So there was a sense of sadness, but a sense of
understandable. A lot of bonds were made.
I did something good to help those people.
We rode on a school bus to go back to the airport to leave. And of course I had already been crying because we were leaving the people that we'd met here. And Nick was trying to comfort me, and he was going to kiss me on the forehead. And well, I didn't think about him being a gentleman and kissing me on the forehead. I thought he just missed my lips, so I just grabbed him and kissed him on the bus.
Shirley Brooks Jones, the retired Ohio State fundraising administrator, boards Delta Flight 15 to begin her journey home. She's constantly thinking about the generosity of the people in the Gander area, wondering what she could ever do to pay them back. And then going home, an inspiration.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the bonds that they've all made with each other. And even, you know, some people found their life partners as well.
A love story through all this.
A love story through the tragedy.
Yeah, you love to see it. That's why there's bad, but good can be born from it too.
Yeah, you can just see just such kindness from people.
That town was 100% culturally enriched after that. And of course, after spending so much time with all the passengers that had come to that town, you would feel a bit of, you know, oh no, it's over now. They probably made such great friendships and such bonds with everyone, and a relief that people got to go back to their lives, and you know, it was declared safe again to go home and see all their loved ones and family. But a town of this size, just hosting so many people and looking after everyone and opening their hearts and their homes the way they did, was just beautiful to see.
All of us, as we were leaving, tried to leave some money with the people, and they wouldn't take it. They'd just look at us and they'd say, no, you do the same for us.
Once the flight is airborne, Brooks Jones asked the pilot if she can make an announcement. A request, really, for passengers to donate money toward a scholarship fund for graduates of Lewisport Collegiate School.
Oh, that's nice.
So many have spent their days in Newfoundland.
Several of the men went around, picked up the pledge sheets, counted up how much the people from all over the world had pledged, and they had pledged something over $15,000 US.
Wow.
Wow, that's amazing.
When Delta 15 touches down in Atlanta, the passengers and crew, who for days were left wondering if anyone remembered them, are surprised by the warm, enthusiastic welcome they received.
Oh,
That's nice.
After 4 stressful days spent tending to her passengers, and with the thought of 2 hijacked American Airlines flights still fresh in her mind, Captain Beverly Bass recalls the moment she arrived home in Dallas.
So we're rolling down the runway. I'm looking straight ahead, and I put the airplane into reverse, and it's the first chance I've had to look to the right, and that's when I saw the American flag. That was it. That was the first
She
time
felt really at home
that
now.
my emotions came into play.
George Vitale returns home to a New York deeply wounded by 9/11. His everyday, a reminder of what was lost.
I come out my house and now I'm looking at that Manhattan skyline in front of me, and there's this gaping hole. And I remember becoming so overwhelmed emotionally that I just broke out in tears.
You woke up.
I lost a lot of people that I knew, co-workers that never came home. I have sometimes guilt because my experience was so warm. I've made lifelong friends. It's kind of like if this evil attack by evil people never happened, I would have never met on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, the most wonderful people on earth.
The Aurores finally arrive home on Saturday afternoon, 4 days after they were diverted to Gander. It will be 9 more days before they finally get the call they had been dreading. Kevin's body has been recovered in the rubble of the North Tower.
I know Kevin so well. He'd be the last man out if it was his way. He'd get everybody out before himself, no matter be it. That's the type he was.
He was only 44 years old.
Wow, it's very young.
Parents aren't supposed to bury their children. Children are supposed to bury their parents. The way he died, it was hard. It was hard.
I tell you, each year it gets easier. It don't. It gets harder.
The regular rhythm of everyday life in Gander returns quickly following that extraordinary week in September. Schools are schools again. Churches fill on Sundays. Legion halls open their doors. But the bonds forged in that short time endure to this day. Shirley Brooks Jones has returned 17 times to give back to the people who were so generous to her. How big is that scholarship fund now?
The scholarship fund is approaching, with insurance and cash, around $900,000.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Oh my God.
people of the Lewisport area have been helped by that scholarship.
That's amazing.
Last spring, Stacy Hoff is one of 12 Lewisport seniors awarded a Delta 15 scholarship.
And it comes to no surprise, I'm sure, that the graduate of the year for 2009 is Stacy Hoff.
She is now a freshman at Memorial University in St. John's, Newfoundland.
I was proud. I was proud not only to receive the scholarship, I was proud of my community for what they have done.
Well, the folks around here changed your life, but you changed their life as well.
Yes, we've become very, very close. They're my second family, really.
The Gander experience also forms a new family. After their impulsive goodbye kiss, Nick Marson and Diane Kershke, living an ocean apart, continue to phone and write each other. He visits her in October 2001 and again in December, and ultimately arranges to be transferred to the Houston office. On September 7th, 2002, they are married, and for their honeymoon, they return to Gambo, the village near Gander where they met. The community welcomes them back with a song written just for them. So when you said to your friends in England, I was stranded in Gander, but I met this lady from Texas. They say, Nick, what's going on with you here?
One of my friends said to me, has she got that Texas twang? And I said, yes. And you still love her?
Wow.
For the O'Rourkes, memories of 9/11 remain deeply painful. But the lasting gratitude they feel for a kind stranger who became a dear friend during their darkest hours brings them back to Gander for the first time, 8 years after they have buried their son.
Made you feel right at home, like you were friends forever. And you don't forget that.
In your case, you had great loss, but great gain because of all these friends that you made here.
Oh, I made great friends.
They'll be your friends forever.
Forever, forever. Can never thank them enough. It is unbelievable what these people have done. The love that's here, everything, you know, it's just unbelievable.
What we keep encountering time after time is an enormous contrast between the darkness of the events in the United States and the goodness that was going on here. So in many ways, Gander played a critical role, not just in getting people through that time, but as an example of what humanity can be when it's at its best.
Well, I think there was a lady, she was 80 years of age, and when she was leaving, I think she summed it all up. She said, when I heard about what had happened in the world, I had lost all faith in mankind. But after spending 5 days here with you people, you've restored my faith. There still is
That's amazing.
people lifting
That's
our
such a
world.
lovely thing to say.
That could be the legacy of Gander.
It could very well be.
In a lakeside park just outside of Gander, there is this monument to the local residents who put their lives on hold to help 7,000 strangers stranded far from home on a terrifying day. Here, every minute of every hour, thousands of acts of kindness were repeated. Here, in gratitude, passengers created a scholarship fund that will endure for generations. Here, amid the heartache, an autumn romance blossomed. Here, parents were consoled as they faced the prospect of the loss of a son at ground zero. Amid so much savagery, so much confusion, the people of Gander and Canada were a glowing reminder of the best that we can be when the need
100%.
is the greatest. And Kevin O'Rourke, the firefighter from Rescue 2 in Brooklyn who was lost in the World Trade Center last November, his daughter gave birth to a son. So now Dennis and Hannah have a great-grandson. Now his name is Kevin, so he lives on.
Oh, that's nice.
If you ever need your faith restored in human kindness, that should be compulsory viewing.
Well, it's a great place. I love Newfoundland and Labrador. I've been up there fishing, and they're just very representative of the people. It's a harsh land, and they settled it a long time ago. And as they say to us, this is how we get along here. We help each other out. And frankly, they didn't understand what the fuss was all about. They kept saying to me, why are you doing this story? This is just how we live our lives. So it is, I think, during a troubled time in America, a reminder of how people and communities, even across borders, can help each other.
How many places on Earth could that have happened in?
Well, I don't know. I think that the best of humankind comes out during a tragedy. So I think it's, we see that in this country. We see it in where I go in undeveloped parts of the world where people will respond very quickly. We saw it in Haiti. It's going on right now in Chile, I'm sure, today during this great devastation. It's just sad that it takes a tragedy to bring people together in that fashion. So that's a very good symbol for the rest of the world to look at, Gander.
There were not too many beautiful stories that came out of that terrible Tuesday in 2001. No. That was one of them.
Well, the other thing that we felt strongly is that not enough Americans knew about it. And because of the chaos after 9/11, we were consumed, understandably, with trying to put our country back together again. And so when I got up there, I was vaguely aware of the dimensions of it, but not nearly to the degree that we discovered that it played out over a long period of time, and the passengers remain grateful to this day.
Compelling. Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
So first off, a very big shout out to you guys for telling us about this story in the first place. We appreciate every one of you that came into the comments and told us about this. Such a beautiful story from start to finish. It did have bad parts, but we don't have beautiful stories without some bad in between. And of course, a very big rest in peace and a lot of love to the O'Rourke family, and especially Kevin O'Rourke, a hero doing what he loved, helping people. A very big shout out as well to the people of Gander. This was a beautiful way to show how humanity comes together very well. And of course, do make sure you check out the original content creator, give them a like, subscribe and share, and all of that good YouTube stuff.
What he was saying there about not enough people knowing that, it's not even just not a lot of Americans know it. Not a lot of people around the world knew what happened in Canada that day either.
No.
So it's amazing to see that they did go up and just investigate what happened there. And it was just such a tragic day, but it was also such, like he said, it was so amazing that humanity was able to come together and everybody just helped each other. Put everything behind them, put everything aside. No matter who got off that plane, they were making sure that they were safe and looked after and fed and clothed and had their medication, and they just done absolutely everything for them, and it's lovely. And it's even extra lovely that they all came together and made a scholarship fund for the kids that were in the town too. That was just, I thought that was such an amazing thing to do. I really did, because colleges over in America and Canada are very expensive, so giving back to the community like that helped is just amazing. It really is incredible. It's going to change so many lives that live there.
So, full disclosure, I thought he said, because when he talked about the population of New York, I thought it was 7 million that was in Gander the whole time. I only realised in somewhere between part 3 you'll probably see the pin drop on my face. It was actually 7,000. I thought that the whole way through. But still, how full the town was and filled with people, and just the love they showed each other. And not only that, the way they said, we're not expecting payback, this is just what we do for neighbourly. Like, you don't see that enough in the world. Even today, it's not really shown as much. Well, we don't see anyway. Like, the media doesn't flood us with this beautiful companionship between each other, the humanity shown, just how much humans actually remembered their fellow human. But another beautiful sight was the female pilot when she came back to Texas and seeing the American flag coming down from the control tower, just knowing she was home, safe, and America stood tall. But a beautiful patriotic symbol to all the people of America as well was, if you look at one of the shots there at Ground Zero there, even the firemen, how much, America was like, we're going to stand strong on this, held the flag together there in the middle of it to let them know, let the people know they're safe, we're coming together, and all the people came together to restore the country. But this story of Gander is one to be remembered.
Absolutely.
And like they said, it should be always shown to like how good humans treat each other in times of crisis.
There was a lot of loss that was had that day and the days after that as well. But there was also a lot of love too.
Yeah.
And a lot of compassion and a lot of humanity, and I think that's what we need to take away from that. It's just be kinder to people, just be nicer to people. Nobody knows what anybody's going through or what happened or anything like that. Just open your heart and try and help, and that's it. That's all we can do. That's how we all become better and how the world becomes better. We all just need to help. Even if it's just saying hello to somebody, that can change the day.
Of course, everyone watching or everyone in the comments, wherever you are in the world, Did you know about this story before? How do you feel after watching this story? What parts really struck out to you? And if there's any other stories like this you feel the world doesn't know enough of, or maybe you feel we should know, let us know in the comments down below. And of course, where were you while the story was going on? Do you remember this being shown anywhere? Do you remember any talks of it?
If you guys have any other stories from American history recently or from before that you feel like the world should know about, please drop them down below and we can take a look at them.
That has been our 2 cents, and we will chop ourselves out of this.